Hey there everybody, welcome back to another art video. Today I wanted to do something a little different, just as I always do usually, but since school is just now starting up again, I figured I'd try to do some kind of art video where I try to make comic book art using only school supplies. As you can see here, I have a big pile of school supplies that I'm going to go over in just a second right now. I have school pencils, which, you know, some of those are big. I have Sharpies. I have whiteout, an eraser, obviously, colored pencils, a highlighter, and some ballpoint pens. I wanted to use all these supplies to create some comic book artwork, because I figured it would give me a challenge while also giving you guys some cool and interesting content to watch. So I gathered up some old school supplies and some random stuff, and I'm going to try and use them today to create a comic book drawing. And I'm drawing Batman today, as I usually do on my channel. I've drawn Batman a couple times, and I want to draw him again because Batman's my favorite superhero. So I'm going to be doing a head sketch of him, and I'm just going to start sketching it out here. I'm using basic printer paper, as I do not have notebook paper right now, and my actual school notebooks are used for school, so I'd rather not use those for, you know, doing a silly drawing video here on YouTube. But I'm going to go ahead and start sketching his face out using an HB pencil. This got a little bit messy, since I don't usually sketch out a sketch like this in an HB pencil. I'll usually do it in a much lighter pencil. My fan was also blowing the paper away, but as you can see here, this is like the basic sketch here, and I'm going to be using this eraser to try and clean up the sketch. But sadly, this eraser was very grippy and ripped up the paper a bit. Well, it didn't rip it, it crinkled it, so as you can see, I kind of took my rage out on the thing a little bit. I stabbed it with a pencil, apparently, which, you know, that's fun to watch, I guess. But yeah, my fan keeps blowing my drawing, so it keeps crinkling the paper more, which is just extremely fun. But yeah, I decided to stop erasing that and just to get started with the inking process. The only things I had to ink were these Bic Crystal Extra Smooth ballpoint pens, which are your basic ballpoint pen you might buy for school. You're probably going to be using it for writing more than you are going to be drawing, but since they're extra smooth, I figured I'd go ahead and try and use them for drawing. I also had these Sharpies, but I have actually used Sharpies before for a lot of my drawings, but it's mainly just to be using them for larger areas that need a large black covered up area, so I'll usually just use those for that, or I'll use them to get a thicker line on something, so that's probably all I'm going to be using them for here, but they still count as school supplies. Oh yeah, and I had this green Lego ballpoint pen, which is going to be basically useless for what I'm doing here, so I kind of just threw it away. So I started inking a little bit, and this was the hardest part of this drawing, is because these ballpoint pens are not extra smooth at all. They took a while to get ink onto the paper, and it was very scratchy when I did it. I had to go back over my line a couple times. This could have been because I didn't fully erase the graphite and the pencil just wasn't going on top of it, which could be the big issue, but it was mostly making my line look very scratchy in certain places. Certain places it looked a lot smoother, and other places it didn't. And as you can see there on his mouth and on his eyes, it looked a little bit scratchy. This was pretty good for hatching, though. I found that I could cross hatch fairly well using this, so I did that a bit on the face there. And that worked pretty well on the cape for the most part, but apart from that, everywhere else it got really messy. And here I'm using the Sharpie just to block in some larger shadows. I wanted to have a big shadow on Batman's face here, so I kind of just blocking that in with the Sharpie, and then I'm going over some other lines just to add some darker line weight to things. I didn't want to add too much because too much thick lines makes your drawing look a little blocky, and that's not what I wanted it to look like. But I went in and just blocked in some shading on his face, and then I went to his chest and stuff. I colored in the symbol on his chest black, and then just did some extra shading on the cape and stuff. I didn't really like how it turned out. It looked very messy, so I went back in with the ballpoint pen to try and clean up my line a little bit, and then used the Sharpie to clean up my shadows a little bit as I kind of just rushed them in, so I kind of went back over them to make sure there were no streaky bits. And there was really not much else I could do because the sketch was just so messy, and this line art was so messy because of that ballpoint pen being just so scratchy. And since this paper was extremely thin, the ballpoint was just rubbing into my table, and that wasn't making it any better. But I think the inked sketch came out pretty nice. But I want to add a pop of color, so I'm going to use these little Crayola colored pencils here. They're There were only 12 of them. There weren't many colors to work with, so I kind of had to get creative in what colors I wanted to use. But I wanted to go with a more 70s blue style Batman, where he has like the blue cowl and cape. I've always liked that version of Batman, so I just used the blue color pencil here. I also have this whiteout I can use to add highlights later if I want, or, you know, correct any of my messy mistakes. So I just started lightly adding in some blue, and I do end up putting more of it later on just because I didn't like how light it was. These are also cheaper color pencils. I have used Crayola color pencils before, but they are like very, very opaque, I guess. I'm not sure if that's the word. But to do a skin tone, I just layered over some orange and yellow and then put some red over it. And I used this purple colored pencil to add some shading because it was a lot darker than the previous blue. And as you can see, I layered over the blue and it looks a lot nicer. I added a couple highlights with the whiteout, but my whiteout was super dried and left out for a while. So I just went with a white colored pencil, which worked out a lot nicer. But as you can see here, I got this nice little drawing, and I think it's okay. I'm pretty proud of it. It doesn't look like the worst thing ever. I definitely think I could have done better maybe with my usual art supplies, especially because that ballpoint pen was just so scratchy. But I think I still managed to make it look good enough anyway. But yeah, I'd really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more drawing videos, please like and subscribe to this channel. I have tons of drawing stuff coming up. But with school starting up and everything, I will not be posting as much, but I will try to still post more regularly. But as you can see, this is going to be like my last video before the school year starts, so I really do hope you enjoyed, and if you want to see more drawing stuff, please subscribe. I have a ton more drawing stuff coming, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.